This is TWiT. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The tech guy. He's Chris Marquardt, the photo guy, as you can probably tell by the music. Chris joins us every week to talk about, I don't know, having fun with photography. I guess sometimes people might say, well, is that technology? It doesn't have to be. You have a great book on film photography, which I own and love. But nowadays, technology has a great deal to do with photography, I would say.
Yeah, it is full of tech. It is full of advances to the point where the technology kind of disappears. I mean, that's what the manufacturers have always tried. They automate everything for you. They make they expose the picture for you, so you don't have to think about the aperture and ISO and shutter speed. They will automate colors for you, what we call white balance, so that the pictures have kind of natural colors wherever you are. They will try to even automate weird things that are not even in all the cameras right now. I mean, if you look at a smartphone, the smartphone will analyze your photo before you take it, and it'll know that thing on the top is the sky, and the thing on the bottom is a green meadow, and the thing in the middle are people, and then it'll take care that the sky looks good, and the meadow looks like a meadow, nice and juicy green, and then the skin tone of the people is right. There's an entire processor in there that does that. So the technology does a lot to allow you to kind of lean back and just point the camera somewhere and press the button and get a good photo. But if we go into the area of, let's say, mirrorless cameras and DSLRs, let's say the more advanced the photographer gets, the more they want to take control. They want to take control back over some of those systems, because the biggest problem with all these automated systems is that they don't know your intent. They can only guess what you want. I mean, for example, let's look at autofocus. Yeah. When you point the camera somewhere, it has to focus. It has to tune its lens and set the distance between these little lenses in there, so that whatever you're pointing it at is sharp, right? And that's the norm. The lenses do autofocus. The cameras do that for you. But then there are some lenses, especially in cameras where you can swap lenses, that are manual focus, where you have to do this manually.
And it's because of you that I am stuck right now with a manual focus lens in beautiful downtown Barcelona. It's your fault.
I think you'll come back with
no, I'm excited.
A few very, very interesting insights into photography.
Yeah, I mean using a modern camera that can do autofocus. In fact, it's got very good autofocus. But the lens I'm using is a kind of old school lens that you hand focus. I kind of like that though, because I choose what to focus on, right?
It has pros and cons. I mean, if we look at autofocus, it has its benefits. It's usually very precise. It's usually fast enough. It's good enough in terms of focusing. And in special cases, let's say you are a wildlife photographer, you want to take pictures of birds in flight, or a sports photographer with people running at you, it can be a lot more precise than what you can do manually. Because if you look at the flagship cameras, the big models of the manufacturers, those that sports photographers would use and wildlife photographers would use, those you can fine tune how the autofocus works. So if you have a flock of birds in the air, you can tell the camera,
follow that bird,
follow that bird. You can kind of point in the right direction, and it will always be in focus. I mean, this is amazing what these cameras can do.
Oh, it's amazing. My Sony A9 that my lovely wife got for me, it was very, very expensive. There's a button on it that says track the eye. So if you're doing model photography, you press this button, and then it doesn't matter. You can move all around, and the eyeball is always in focus, which is most of the time in portrait photography what you want. That's remarkable.
It tends to be what you want, but of course, autofocus also can have its issues because, as I said, it doesn't know what your intention is. What do you want to do? It might choose the wrong thing in the photo to focus on. It has to do some guesswork, and normally it employs algorithms where it's okay. Let me try to get the middle of the shot in focus. That's usually where the action is. Let me look for contrast. Contrast is usually what the camera can focus on easily. Or let me give priority to, let's say, a face, for example. That's what you just said. The eyes are important in portraits. So the camera does face recognition. It knows that this is a face and I want to focus on the eye. The contrast detection can be a bit tricky, especially when people wear glasses, because I've seen this often. If you work with a lens that gives you a very shallow depth of field, the focus has to be very precise. And then if someone's wearing glasses, it sometimes happens that the camera locks the focus not on the eye, but on the glasses in front of the eye.
That's not good.
And if you work with an according lens that has very shallow depth of field, you end up with a slightly out of focus eye, which will drive professional photographers up the walls. But then let's look at manual focus. Again, has some benefits, has some issues. Benefits is you can focus where you want the focus to be. There's no guesswork from the camera. You call the shots. You are the one who tells the camera, this is where you focus at. But it requires some skill. You have to practice that. It also helps if you have special type of equipment. We're talking about special focus screens, like a prism focus screen is one thing that helps very well here. Also, some lenses work better for autofocus than other lenses. Most lenses in cameras these days are what we call fly-by-wire lenses. You might have a focus ring on them, but if you turn that focus ring, it's not mechanically changing the focus. It's telling some chip that, oh, he turned the ring a bit to the left, now change the focus. So it's kind of a bit detached, you know. Those lenses can manual focus. You can use them to manual focus, but that doesn't really mean that you should, because it is more touchy. I have one of these lenses, an STM lens, which has a stepper motor in it, which you know when the first automatic transmissions came out in cars. Yeah. I mean, driving those was where you were very detached from the road.
That's a really good analogy, because in the early days, a human could do a better job shifting, but nowadays, if you're, I mean, a modern automatic transmission is going to do a better job.
Double clutch automatic these days? Come on. I mean, this is just a very different beast now. But the same is with lenses. So some cameras can manual focus, but yeah, it's probably not the right thing to do. But I'd say
I like it. Now, my camera has
what works for you. Right?
Yeah, my camera has a bunch of features for manual focus. I'm also shooting with a Sony, this time the A7R II. It does a weird thing. If something's in focus, it highlights it. I use red, so it looks like I got sparkly red wherever stuff's in focus. It also lets me zoom in 3 levels of zoom, so I can get really close, focus it, and then I can take the shot and it backs out. That helps a lot. It still takes time.
And even if you use autofocus, I mean, the important thing is if the autofocus doesn't hit it, if it doesn't focus where you want it to, there will probably be ways that you can tell the camera how to do it. You can nudge it in the right direction, maybe select a different focus point, or tap on a touch screen and tell the camera where to focus.
I do this all the time, the photographer's pivot, where I use a center point focus. I press it halfway down, it focuses. That means that on the item I want, but then I don't necessarily want it in the middle, so I'll do the photographer's pivot, keep the button pushed, but reframe the picture, and then take the picture. So yeah, that's kind of manually focusing with an automatic focus.
that is one way to do it, and that's a good trick to kind of have both worlds, best of both worlds.
We're out of time. Chris Marquardt, he's at discoverthetopfloor.com. He's my favorite photo guy. Inspires me every time. We'll talk pictures when I get back from my trip. You can take a look at some of my out of focus shots. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.